When you think of Metroidvania games and their defining, non-linear progression, typically involving backtracking after unlocking new abilities, paired with fast action gameplay, yeah, CARRION fits that profile. Even if there is less platforming, oh, and blood is fuel. Imposing as a reverse horror game, we play as this creature, stalking and consuming those that imprisoned us in this laboratory, all to obtain our own freedom. With our tentacles many and bloodshed plenty, destruction comes with a normal way of playing the game. But it's almost too easy. I mean, running through the game, instantly botting all our opposition is fun, just not too difficult. So what if I didn't do all that? I mean, I don't need to kill everything to escape. I'm an evolved creature. Literally. So what if I took the horror out of reverse horror and... wait, that wouldn't make sense. What if instead of killing, I just let these guys be? If my existence is a train wreck, then why not invite as many people as we can to watch? Okay, some ground rules. Well, obviously, I won't kill every human in front of me. Even if eating is the expected healing method, it's still pretty messed up. And violence just leads to more violence. I want to try to break that cycle. But given the nature of this game, death is going to be inevitable, for us or for these poor souls who chose to work corporate. I'll be optimistic though. Surely there's something I can do to keep that number to a minimum, and we shouldn't have to absolutely demolish everything in front of our many eyes. Violence is going to be optional here. So with that out of the way, in this game of literal consumerism, how much can we avoid? How many deaths does it take to beat CARRION? Would we be able to get by in the complex with everything trying to kill us while we won't fight back, or would I be forced to play the game normally? Alright, so we begin in just a secure glass tube, surrounded by nothing but steel and embezzled funding. But we're not quite alone though. You hear that? Yeah, those are some pretty aggressive footsteps from the people who I can't be aggressive towards. But with a little bit of shaking, we break free. Greeted by a very welcoming... I don't think anyone's gonna mind if I go for a little stroll. I mean, if I wasn't supposed to, they should have locked me up better. So we quickly acquaint ourselves with movement and coordination, left-clicking for movement and right-clicking to interact with everything around us, both of which are simultaneously aimed by mouse movement. This could get annoying later, but for now, janky mobility aside, now that we are on a strict diet, we have to exercise some self-restraint. We choose to ignore this man fighting for his life on the stall, not even reading the prompt the game throws at us, so we're gonna carry on instead. Currently, our goal is to not accidentally decapitate people around us with us or the furniture. As in, I don't really have the money to pay up property damage, so keeping that in mind, we still, however, will interact with most puzzle mechanics just fine. Pulling this lever, opening this gate, and getting access to what is our version of a checkpoint. These checkpoints are going to be important for us as they pry open the sealed tunnels connecting the different areas, necessary for our progression, but at the same time making it rather linear. Boom! Welcome to the Frontier, the hub world that connects everything. Because it's largely devoid of other life, we can slinky along as we please. This challenge has been pretty easy just now, and that's probably because we're still in the tutorial. The Frontier gives access to other zones one at a time, unveiled by our learned abilities. Our only knowledge in this world right now is pressing down levers, and that's enough to bring us into the military junkyard. Why exactly are we here? I have no idea. Why would there be people guarding a junkyard? Beats me. What I do know is that it isn't right for the entire game to have us walk past everything, and just in time, we meet the first actual enemy, the snack that shoots back. Normally, we would have more health by process of consuming all those before us, or we would just lunge at them before they shoot us, but neither of those are an option for us right now. This means that this guy right here has an unequivocal power to send us back a checkpoint. To get around this first taste of a major obstacle, we use the hide in the water and pray he forgets we exist strategy. We dart past him, prompting him to shoot at us a few times, before seemingly forgetting where he is and going back to patrolling. We wait for him to turn before making a mad dash for a successful escape. Eventually. When we finally do make it past this guy, we are granted the first checkpoint, which I guess you could say is pretty generous, until I take that all back as we are thrown into another small room with another trigger-happy guard. We have a small window when the guard first notices us to move down to the pipe under, but the pipe is kinda beveled and we get clipped. It's not a difficult maneuver after a while. Same with these two here, we just have to move quickly because bullets can also travel down these pipes with us and finish us in the next room. A quick redo later, we find two more guards, playing high ground low ground stacked upon each other, Fortunately, if we fall fast enough, we can grab the second checkpoint before being put down. Triggering the cutscene kinda blue screens all the guards, so we're free to squiggle past and reach our first DNA upgrade, a web shot, to be used on levers and people alike. We're gonna use this on this lever we can't reach, like this. Also, side note, the web shot has some weird physics that sometimes just tears people apart, so I'm gonna be using it sparingly on our co-inhabitants. But having unlocked this first crucial puzzle solving ability, we climb up again, where we can activate another switch with the new web shot, and move into a large room with 4 armed guards in tackle range. We're not allowed to do that, so instead we just run past and close the door behind us. When everything seems so figured out, of course, we are hit with another guard in a small room and a lever I have to get to. To get around this, we first pique this guy's interest by scaring him a little, then running all the way back here. If we just hide in the corner a bit, presumably he will walk towards us off screen, and when the time seems right, we just run back, run past him and close the door behind us. This way we can press the lever without any interruptions, which opens 2 things, the gate to the exit, and the gate to the last checkpoint, which we need for the exit. How convenient. What isn't convenient is the fact that it's under the 4 guards we just ran away from. Mind you, I'm still on 1 HP, so getting shot by any of them, or this guy right here, would mean I would have to redo all of this again. Not exactly ideal. And so, with our only path forward in front of us, we make a dash for it. Conveniently, everyone's facing away, so we seize this opportunity and dive headfirst straight into the room under. Yeah, I don't know how she survived 3 bullets going into her, but maybe I should be concerned for the guy lying on the floor right now. I said I wouldn't kill anyone, and seeing that he could still stand perfectly fine, I think he's very much alive. I'm sure I only gave him a few broken bones, and as long as he's living, I don't think he'll complain. Now that we made sure he didn't suffer any fatal injuries, we intimidate the guards back a little bit. I wouldn't want to be shot right before our checkpoint. We just have to convince this person to move out of our way. Don't worry, she's fine. And just like that, we can grab the final checkpoint, which will allow us to come and go as we please. With nothing to do now but leave, we squeeze past the guards from before and go back to the frontier. Nothing lost, life lesson learned. Hip replacement surgery has high survivability, and if they're not dead, they won't be on my guilty conscience. Armed with our new moral code, we carry on our journey. This section is brought to you by a large blue screen thing that somehow locks a door. Yeah, the wiki also doesn't know what they're called or why they trigger our flashbacks. Regardless, this is a series of events that happens in the game and can only be described as part of the lore. And if you care about it, in this first one, we play from the perspective of a scientist with their team. They explore an abandoned underground facility, plant some C4 on the wall, blow that wall up, and proceed further in. Alright, cut back to our red shenanigans. Waking up from our nap, we can now proceed further into the research facility. This previously inaccessible door can be convinced otherwise thanks to our newly unlocked string shot and this lever. Following that pipe, we end up in the uranium mines with whatever residues I think I'll survive. I mean, I eat genetic material straight from test tubes, and terminal illness isn't really an issue for me. On the other hand, I hope they pay these guards more than minimum wage. They don't even have protective suits. I mean, this guy doesn't even have a gun. Regardless, the way out seems pretty easy. You know, just dash past the first guy, hide in the ceiling, wait for the guy we tormented for 3 minutes to tell everyone what he saw, then run after him again after he thinks he's safe. Oh yeah, I'm not going to cover psychological damage either. Anyways, we reached our first segment checkpoint safely and quickly. And after a quick reminder of our intimidation tactics, we part the guards like the Red Sea before coming into another room and once again screaming at the top of our lungs for everyone to back off. Whew, just like that, another checkpoint. One more and we'll be home free. Yeah, that goober was trying to find us and actually does get a shot off, but our speed has been our greatest asset in getting out of our troubles. Just when it seemed all too figured out, we are greeted with a new enemy. That was probably behind doors for a good reason. One notable difference with these soldiers is that they will run to the source of sound instead of away from it. Oh, and they project a laser shield that we can't pass through and shoot a lot faster. All that to say, they are definitely a dangerous enemy and we should proceed with caution. Fortunately, they still get baited like idiots, allowing us to walk past and claim a major upgrade for ourselves. After ingesting the contents of the random tube, we find ourselves larger, finally with more than 1 health. Additionally, we have access to a charge ability, which can be used to break through wooded pallets. Our abilities are going to be tied to the health state, meaning if I were to take 3 points of damage, we would revert back to baby mode, and I would have string shot again. Okay, yap session over. Time to go back to the frontier and put theory to practice. This room, filled with wooden boards and guards, is not the issue itself. Sure, I have to make sure I don't accidentally squish the guy right behind the first barricade. That and sneaking past 2 more gunmen, we reach the actual problem of this segment, on top of this large climb. Another wooden structure I have to break through. Yeah, okay, well, I would somehow have to get back to the health where I can break this pallet. and I don't think I'm gonna kill those guys on my left to do it. Okay, whatever, send me back. In short, I just have to make a pass here with enough HP that I can still pass the barricade without gorging on the nearby inhabitants. Now that we're larger, avoiding bullets also becomes more of a hassle. If I said this was gonna be easy, yeah, I would be lying. Cue the fail clips. Okay, now for the winning attempt. Over the countless lives I've learned the best way to pass through the first and second beams in this room is to charge upwards at an angle, so I avoid accidentally decapitating everyone. If we manage to make it to the second room, we just have to hug the right wall and everyone can't really do anything. Our final obstacle is this soldier right here, which is kinda scary to deal with while only having 1 HP, but thankfully we can just wait for him to turn around and walk away. Him putting his shield down is my cue to go, and with that we finally escape and can proceed on. Could you tell I hated that? Whatever. The path forward actually directs us back to the military junkyard, still inhabited by the people we didn't slaughter. Good on us. You still alive? Good. I'm not paying your medical bills. Moving on, Hazardous Waste Landfill. Yeah, okay, whatever, this place follows OSHA guidelines. The new puzzle-solving gimmick thrown upon us is this red water, allowing me to deposit a portion of my health to pick up later. This would allow me to have a way to interchange our web and charge abilities without requiring bloodshed. From a gameplay perspective, these guys are probably only here to allow me to gain health if I lose it, which is why they're unarmed, but wow, they really should have a workers' rights union. I mean, at least I'm not killing them. Upon reaching the save, we recover our health obtained up until this point. Normally this could be a full 2 bars, but since I only have the additional HP gained from the last upgrade, we only have 8, as opposed to a full 10. Before you ask, yes, I will be restoring my health every chance I get. No, I'm sure that extra health comes free range and cruelty free. As the previous rooms have hinted, this doorway leads to another room, which itself is guarded by 2 soldiers. I opt to reduce down to gain web slinging, since I'm more confident that these soldiers aren't gonna crumple and snap. Since I can only have 1 web out at a time, I need to find some timing where both soldiers are incapacitated to the extent that I can slip past. This shows way into one of the many optional upgrades. Not required for progression, but will grant some passive ability to our creature that will make going forward a tad bit easier. I'm not going to go out of my way to get most of them as they require we backtrack quite a bit, but we'll get this one since it's right here. After making sure I don't accidentally blow up the 2 scientists, we pick up the echolocation upgrade, which will allow us to sense edible corpses in our vicinity. If one of these scientists were dead, the echolocation would return back a sound, similar to those created by the checkpoints and travel points. Yeah, this would be good for checking that we haven't accidentally committed a murder, but I tend to forget, so I just wait for them to set up like I've been doing. With the upgrade in tow, I pick up my pieces, taunt the soldiers, and break through the final barrier, allowing us back to the frontier. Moving forward, an area we'll come back to later, another mechanism I can't use, oh, and our newest obstacle blocking our door. This means we will have to kill this drone to get anything done. Now, you may think this is cause for concern, but I'm gonna ask, is this thing alive? I'm gonna go with no, they don't bleed and they don't scream in pain when I hit them. These things are called sentinels and they usually only appear to block our doors, so not really different for us than a normal playthrough. They attack by scanning all around them and they project the laser shields that we can't pass through. And unlike the other things we may come across, robotic enemies require us to break them down by physically slamming them into the floor. Sure, they are difficult to deal with once they spawn, but we can always just spawn camp them by grabbing them the moment they appear. Overcoming that allows us into the second flashback, and to pick up where we left off, we arrive deeper into the facility and have to find a lever for this gate while our coworkers just stand around doing nothing. We find that lever at the bottom of a pit, waltz our way back up, and open the door to take some samples of a weird growing mass. Great, and after whatever that was, we encounter our first actual incident of the run. You see, this lever requires us to use a web shot and closes a gate behind us. After that, a barricade demands that we charge through it with our larger form. And as you may realize, this is a small problem. Granted, we can only gain mass from our own piles, or by eating, and we already locked ourselves away from our previous pudding puddle. So it looks like our only path forward will have to be paved by bloodshed, meaning my dieting streak is gonna have to end. And believe me, I tried everything. running and charging into a wall, charging towards the lever, sitting still and doing nothing, trying to drag our mass out of the water with us, charging into the locked gate, throwing a bunch of webs into the pellets, throwing a tantrum into the floor, doing that dragging mass thing out of the water again, and even becoming a meatball ourselves to understand life, before finally accepting that, yeah, people are gonna have to die. So we crawl into a door to find two people by the pool of water, and from the side of us, they, I mean, yeah, this was a necessary outcome, and maybe I am benefiting from circumstance, but these two lives shall not be lost without purpose, without reason, and we're gonna honor them. Oh, and I need one more body for the size threshold, so, yeah. Well, with the weight of 3 lives on our shoulders, we press onwards to the Botanical Garden. To advance here, we must first put ourselves in a confined space with a gunman to try to pull a lever. Sensing the upcoming small rooms, I opt to shrink down so that we can move a bit quicker, which will hopefully be worth more than the higher health. We then slip past 2 rooms of guards and soldiers and reach a save, where then I realize I can't heal up. I can't restore the health since technically it still existed and was obtainable somewhere else in the world, and you know I may need a break through a wood pellet, so kinda gotta run back through everyone to pick that up and save with a higher health. So after that goof, we come across a new soldier variety that has a flamethrower. If we get put on fire, we will constantly lose health until we put it out with a swim, so they're pretty annoying. Navigating through that mess, we are put back into the main room, where 3 sentinels spawn and had to be promptly dealt with to progress. Sure, it was difficult as we can't spawn camp them, but by separating them, we can overcome them. Despite this, it was still kind of a hard fight, and I'm not sure, but I think these 3 were a lot tougher than the previous one, as I found myself bashing them on the floor for quite some time to break them. Luckily, the starting point was right here, so any health lost was of no hindrance, and once again, these are robots, so no ounce of remorse from me. After that little tussle, we navigate past some more flamethrowers and can grab the second of 3 checkpoints, before having to shrink down for a lever puzzle, featuring some soldiers. Up until this point, the green lasers served as restrictions for where we can go, but now, with the contents of the unlabeled test tube, we gain the camouflage ability. This ability will require energy, meaning we will have to voluntarily electrocute ourselves on these breaker boxes, to carry the electricity of course, which will allow us to use our camouflage, sneaking past the lasers undetected. After reverse engineering that lever puzzle we just did and sneaking past some more lasers for our last checkpoint, we get to what I'd like to think is the encouraged stealth section. Seeing as how we just got the Invis cloak and this room is filled with dangerous enemies, you'd think we'd have to be strategic, right? Well, actually the duration on our Invis is just a bit too short, and we kind of move slow with it, so we only get to use it in bursts. Yeah, stealth escape is a cool concept, but it might be a bit unrealistic if no one could see the writhing red blob making nests across the high-tech research rig. But whatever. We escape back to the frontier, and no lives lost in the Botanical Garden itself, but with a total of 3 lives lost to get here. We move along through this tunnel that the laser can't hold us from anymore, and we enter into the Leviathan Reef base. It's actually kinda difficult navigating at first, and we die a few times. Yeah, soldiers are not to be messed with. To get to the first section, we must pull this lever directly under the soldier, who could end us with a single rifle burst. The cutscene buys us just enough time for a maneuver out of his line of sight. The next set of puzzles require that we break a wood pallet, and web shoot the lever through the grate. Since we were forced to shrink down to access this area, and yeah, the entry pipe is one way, this means that, once again, we kinda need to spill blood, and quickly too, as the most health we can have after depositing mass right now is 3, meaning we can barely make it back up to charging size with 3 units of health, and if we got shot, then it would have been for nothing. So it's against our personal choices, or maybe it isn't, I don't know, I do want to escape after all, that 3 more are gonna have to meet their fate. After that tragic display, we must deposit our health to shoot a web at this lever, and we almost died to a soldier doing so. We then narrowly avoid the 2 gunmen past that gate and slip into a room with 2 more soldiers. The electric box hints us to Invis past, and we do just that, still narrowly avoiding a bullet coming out of the pipe. After another lever, we finally get to the first save, before getting lit on fire and getting bailed out by the next room being filled with water. Within a short swim, literally 1 room over, we reach the second save. I can't be the only one to find that the pacing was kinda bad, no? I mean, maybe this checkpoint was for the Sentinel fight, but we just spawn kill it. And then we get hit with the barricade again. I need to be higher health, and we already left that blob in a previous room, and the one-way pipes won't let us back. So you know what that means. Gotta run back a save, redo the lever puzzle, actually bring the larger blob, avoid the gunmen, save where you want to save, kill the Sentinel again, and actually charge through the pellet again this time, to gain access to what I call the worm upgrade. This literally turns us into a swarm of worms when we're submerged in water and lets us pass through grates, like these ones here. One quick checkpoint later and we would have everything we need to head back to the frontier, but of course, a new enemy interrupts us, the Dreadnought. Heavily armored and can't be hurt by us slamming metal objects into them, they attack by scanning for us before firing with heavy weaponry, able to delete us in seconds. This is almost like a boss fight and mandatory, as indicated by the door and the yellow flashing probe. While it may seem as if this were a robot we would have to destroy, there's actually a pilot inside the mech, who is the actual target we gotta get rid of to proceed. Even if we drag the pilot out, after a second they'll just climb back in, with the door still closed. Damn, looks like we're gonna have to kill this guy. To at least pay some semblance of respect for them, we're gonna leave their body intact. Them falling into the water was not really part of our plan, but whatever, what's done is done, add 1 to the kill count. We'll be back, but for now, with our wormification, we can slip to new parts back in the frontier, messing around with some levers, and come across a turret, which does exactly what you expect it to do. Doesn't matter though, as we enter into the Relith Science HQ. As with most things, I must first forget I have a brain and scramble around the simple puzzle that most 3rd graders can solve with their eyes closed. We then find ourselves in the firing line of a large room of guards, and we have to use this room as a navigational hub. Wonderful. Our first step out of here is to go to the right and yoink this lever under the careful watch of this soldier. We choose to make him face a wall and then pull the switch, opening 2 more doors. Choosing to embark on the left trail first, I guess I was supposed to preserve my HP, huh? Well, quick redo, and this time just say screw it, charge straight for the exit, and somehow this time I didn't lose all my health, and we actually get to claim the first checkpoint. Getting out was a bit tricky, as we had to convince this guy not to get crushed by us so we can access the pipes. Learning from our past attempts, we charged straight between everyone to get to the right side, and this checkpoint was leagues easier to reach. After that, we ascend up the building filled with soldiers and researchers, almost like a battle tower. We can ignore it all, however, by taunting the soldiers and crawling up the other sides. Thankfully, we didn't lose too much health and can charge through to get to our 3rd checkpoint. After another mind-numbing 10 minutes of trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, I finally see the vision. Drop down, trigger the laser trap, climb up, charge up, switch a lever for access to the pool, shrink down for both the invis and web shot, unpull that lever for the future, drop down, twice, web shoot the lever to undo the laser, invis through the first laser, and use our remaining invis to sneak past the soldier, turning off the lasers for a good measure, and arriving at our 4th checkpoint. Even though we have opened the path back to the frontier, we are still far from done. Dropping down, we have to pull 2 levers with this guard trying to stop me. It's here where I accidentally discover an interaction that might save this run a lot of pain. I try to use a string shot, which somehow bounces back onto the door, but I accidentally tap the guard instead. This didn't kill her and stunned her, which may be invaluable, specifically in these tight-knit rooms. We pull the levers, the first one opening the gate to the main room, and the second one opening half of the gate for the exit and releasing a dreadnought to patrol the main room as well. Thankfully, we don't need to fight it, so I take the chance to go save and heal in the left side room. Upon realizing that my health was still in that pool up there and that I wasn't able to recover it, we receive a ton of traumatic flashbacks and instantly backtrack to collect that blob, save and prepare to climb the left. On the side we are faced with 2 sentinels who we dismantle easily and reach the pallet that we are able to break. See, I told you that would happen! Sorry. We shrink down again, pulling a lever with our string shot and make sure to pick up our blob before descending through a room full of people, saving and arriving at 2 more levers to the exit. We stun the guard with our sheer presence and grab both levers. This releases another dreadnought, but we don't care, as we just fall into another heavily guarded room. The lever here is in line of sight of everyone, and I've seemingly forgotten that I can now cheese the guards, so we just dash past them and sit in this little pool of water waiting for the soldier, the most dangerous enemy, to de-aggro. Once he gets far away enough, we go for the lever, which doesn't trigger a cutscene, leading to us getting absolutely shot up, but surviving with a sliver of health, and finding ourselves next to the parasitism upgrade. Which doesn't give us parasites, the opposite actually, allowing us to take control of a human being to temporarily act as them. This does kill the host once we exit, and I know what you may be thinking. Why not just walk back the way I came? Well, pulling the lever closes the gate behind us, so unfortunately this is a necessary death if we want to progress. We then have to go to the room on the right and parasitize another person to pull a lever, so that kills another and adds 1 more to our counter. We can then finally reach the exit, pull the lever without controlling anyone, and leave, with a total death count of 9. You know, with the parasitism upgrade we just got, we kinda don't need to do anything anymore. Well, let me explain. If you've ever watched an any % speedrun of CARRION, you may know that most runners only need to play the game up until this point. To fully understand why, we must first go for a Grand Prix tour back to the starting area. From my understanding, the game treats the creature as static when using it and disabling parasitism. This kind of ensures that the creature doesn't get displaced and cause anything funky while being a parasite. When we dash, the game is already calculating where we should be, so if we then activate parasitism and deactivate it while mid-dash, the game will assume we started parasitizing from our endpoint, forcing the game to make us stationary there for as long as the dash key is held down. This means that we can forcibly place ourselves into loading zones that we otherwise can't access, like the other side of one-way pipes. So when used at the proper angle and timing, we can clip through this pipe, bringing us back to the start of the game, which conveniently is also its end. This time we can break through the glass and planks and enter into the final section of the game. No one here is armed, so we just slowly stroll back to the tube we came out of. As funny as it would be to stay in this room after everything we've done, we proceed a bit further, entering the anomalous materials vault. Gathering the final upgrade and shifting into a human, we take a stroll towards the exit, and I gotta say, since most people just delete everything in front of them, walking through the start area while everyone is alive is kinda funny? Creates a different atmosphere, I don't know. Anyways, we can leave by bypassing the security door, and with one final elevator ride, we are free, meaning that the absolute minimum number of deaths needed to beat CARRION is 9. But is that really beating the game? Technically maybe, but it almost doesn't feel definitive. I mean, it probably doesn't make sense why we turned into a human, and while looking at the video runtime, you know you're stuck with me a little longer. Writhing back into the game, we have to make it back to where we were, but first there's an optional containment unit that we can grab right now. We couldn't get it at the start since we need dash, but now after making sure we don't blow up the scientists and checking them with echolocation, we pick up an upgrade for a second prehensile tentacle, which just allows us to grab 2 things at once. It's probably not too useful, but I never turn down free stuff. After traveling all the way back, we have to enter the Leviathan Reef base again. This time we can access a new area thanks to parasitism, allowing us to bypass a grate using a host body. Sadly, this does mean killing someone for game progression, so +1 to the death counter. Man, not even one section over, and someone's dead and exploded. We enter the bridge of the Leviathan Reef base, where we have to first shrink down to pull a lever, and then switch it back up again for an airlock. Of course, we are then forced to take control of a soldier, who we must use to flood the rooms to allow us to turn into worms and have access to a lever. The bodies of soldiers don't explode when we stop controlling them, so we're expected to use that soldier again to reflood the rooms and let us pass. Unfortunately, if we take control of anyone at all, they die, so another for the counter. Climbing up, we gain the energy ability for the medium-sized creature. While the invis with the small form is useful, this ability is not so good for us, especially in this challenge, as turning into a porcupine of instant death is, well, undesirable. The ability won't do us much good, but we'll save anyways at the only checkpoint for this area. The next room is clearly meant to let you live that insta-kill power fantasy, but we just ignore all the people and tank the bullets instead. The following room has 4 soldiers, 2 of which are carrying probes that close the door. This means we have to get rid of them, but just those 2, so gotta add them to the counter. Truly unlucky. Moving to the highlands of the frontier, we get the 3rd and final flashback for the lore. Waking up alone with our coworkers dead, we must ascend back out of the facility we entered. We climb through what seems to be a complex system of cages before coming across a lever that activates this broken sentinel, who can't shoot us despite trying his hardest to. We grab a key from its side and deactivate the system to climb back down. We then use the key to unlock one of the cells we pass and find a stun gun. With it, we take down the sentinel and proceed onwards, dropping a robot husk and escaping through one final door. We see that a bunch of helicopters and soldiers are also here. A drone scans us, detects something wrong, and then everybody rushes to shoot us. Well, with that, it's supposed to make sense why we shapeshifted into that human when I beat the game legitimately that time. If you wanted me to spell it out for you, sure. The scientist we played as in the flashback most likely contracted this creature during an expedition for Relith Science. You know, the corporation whose facility we're currently in. Relith Science is like the SCP Foundation, containing and studying anomalies, and when their drones detected the infected scientist, they neutralized it and captured it. They then mutated it, for science of course, and that's what the containers found throughout the game are, and why we, the creature, can absorb them so easily. Yeah, they basically evolved us for us, so I guess in part we owe our escape to them. Being patient zero over here, it's likely that the creature ingrained itself into this form, which is what we collect at the very end, and why we can use it to pass through the security doors. As for my dead coworkers, I don't think I'll add them to the death count. These flashbacks are obviously meant to predate the events of the actual gameplay, meaning the things that happened weren't really required for us to beat the game. I guess you could argue that without these 3 dying, the game wouldn't really be happening, but none of this played an active part in us escaping, so they're not going to be counted. Okay, that derailed real quick. Right, where were we? Right, so with our path opened, we are able to access the nuclear power plant. We come across these new metal blockades, which we can only push out in one direction due to the way they are shaped. We enter a room full of gunmen and choose to charge through the blockade on the left.
We then proceed down a corridor of turbines and shrink down, pulling the only lever we can access with our string shot, and continue to the first save of this section, which restores us back up. Now, my guess is that since we have 13 lives taken, we do have enough mass such that a deposited blob could exist, and we would still have more HP to gain. I'm choosing to understand like a napkin dispenser, and I filled it to the point where I can take 5 and 5 more will dispense. Moving on, our only path is downwards, under the bathroom, so we wait patiently for the path to clear, then dash left. Stopping in the new room only for a lever, and then continuing onwards. We are now back in the previous lever section, where we can now break all the barricades in our way. We deposit another blob and pull both levers down this time with some webs, and slip past to reach our second save, but not recovering a stage of health. So we do a quick stroll for the blob before proceeding, which may or may not be PTSD driven. Moving forwards, we will have to pull a lever in a room full of soldiers, and we learn that fire damage ticks even when we're in a cutscene, bringing us to 1 health and not able to push the metal barricade. Time to heal. We reach a large and elaborate puzzle room, filled with gaps, water, and a soldier. The above path is blocked, so we're gonna have to sort out this puzzle in this room, which unfortunately means we have to parasitize the soldier. First we gotta shrink down to grab the lever with the webs, then with the parasitized soldier we have to activate the inner lever from the bottom, lowering the water and allowing us to proceed to the right, getting the 3rd checkpoint. Moving forwards, a room with 3 guards we kinda just gotta run past, and 2 more guards, but more dangerously, a sentinel that we must defeat to move on. After breaking the sentinel and opening the door, there is another guard and that turret from before, which we must make it past to our final pipe. And just when I thought I actually succeeded past on this section, the metal grate that we just removed falls down with us, killing a scientist under us. Oh, for crying out loud, that's a lot to tackle. Alright then, it begins. I mean, what else was I supposed to do with all that footage? Don't blame the player, blame his lack of skill. Well, you already know what I was supposed to do, but even I was kinda disappointed in my successful run. I mean, look at me. I lost all my HP in the first room, but clutched it up by invising past the turret, and then just gently nudged the last guy aside while making sure to move the grate, since yeah, that scientist will always be below us. So after all that, we are rewarded with the final mass upgrade, and making sure I don't blow up the scientist, we gain the ultimate combat ability too. Shooting a vortex of Sarkis harpoons. For now, we're just gonna use it to pull apart the metal blockades from their larger side, and we gotta make sure we don't throw the thing into the scientists in the room. Moving on, we learned that we can also use the harpoon to break wood, and can only pull out the metal blockades from the wider side. So we deposit some mass to exchange abilities to deal with the stoppers, go back and recover our health, then proceed forward by pulling out a metal stopper and reach the final checkpoint for this zone. Of course, now we have some mandatory dreadnought fights in order to leave, so I'll just let it play out. Yeah, this ability is so powerful, but sorry to the 2 who had to go. It was you or me, and I choose me. Seeing how much we value our own life, I think you'll be pleased to know that to leave, the groundbreaking gimmick is that we have to consume these radioactive orbs, vomiting and emitting radiation while we have them to deposit them into the generators to progress. We see the slaughter in the next room and choose to go save, just for us to kinda walk past everyone, with only one small bump in the process. Yeah, don't worry about it, she's alive. We retrieve another orb, probably give this guy some sort of radiation poisoning, and unlock our way back to the frontier, now with 16 total lives taken. From here, we can go to the right side, pull open this metal cork, and enter the armored warfare facility. We first have to somehow fit in this elevator and enter a small room to pull a lever. The lever opens the door on the right and we can further proceed. After making sure we didn't squish anyone by accident, we move back down and try to go to the right. But our absolute unit of a creature is a little too chonky to get by unscathed, so we kinda have to bait the flamethrower to the other side before making our move. Arriving on the other side, we choose to go under as opposed to through with these people and... Oh good, you don't die to this water. I was kind of informed of otherwise. The soldier on the toilet is kinda stubborn to move, so we pull something out of Looney Tunes to pass through. The next room is difficult, with all the soldiers and gunmen. At first, we shrink down so we can invis past them, but we are blocked by a metal plug, so we have to charge through this one. I cut it kinda close, losing one of our health stages and then losing the second just as our charge breaks through the plug. It ends up not mattering though, as we reach the first checkpoint of 6. Yeah, the increase was not a joke. Through that, once more, we have to shrink down and shoot a lever to move on, and are then introduced to a new set of enemies. To open the gate at the top, we have to destroy the 4 drones this tank thing sends at us. They're more frail than sentinels, and their only way of attacking us is to charge straight into us. Luckily, since they spawn so clumped together, we kinda just mash them all together. No panic, cool as a cucumber, and no button mashing here. Well, just to remind us that we have this ability, our only way forward is to parasitize this human, adding 1 more to our death count. Well, just because this human had to die doesn't mean that the rest of these guys do too. Although the game actually does let us pilot a dreadnought here, we are going to reject that power fantasy, and instead just walk across the room.
Once we make it to the other side, we bid farewell to our fellow dreadnought and run away before they can stuff us with lead.
Upon reaching our second checkpoint, we can only heal up 1 health stage, and yeah, I guess my fault, I forget, but it turns out it's inconsequential, as the following room may be filled with soldiers, but we just hug the floor and charge through everything. Dropping down, we must get a lever in a room with 2 guards,
and we have to do some gentle persuasion for them to let us through. And yeah, I failed here a lot. Obviously, I can't have them dying on me, so it's a difficult dance, but we make it through.
Entering the path we just opened, we gotta do the lever thing again, but this time tangoing with a soldier.
Since the shield only protects him from one direction, all we gotta do is nudge him from the other side, and we're free to move forward.
Before the worst elevator ride, for these guys.
The bullets from the guards aren't enough to break the glass, so they're safe for now, from me, and I guess the bullets too. Regardless, we get access to our 3rd save and are faced with the challenge of surviving through a corridor of turrets, which we can only temporarily disable. At the end of this tunnel is a wooden pallet that we must break through. This requires precise movements and patience. Or you can just run through it and eventually make it through. Our 4th checkpoint is here too, so nothing is really lost. In fact, 1 room over, we pick up our final upgrade, the charged ability for our largest form, which we are conveniently healed for. With this upgrade, we gain a shield when pressing down the energy button. Energy will only be consumed when we take damage, to which the bar will deplete instead of our health. We gotta use this immediately, as a bomb gets dropped on us, and we have to use a shield to protect ourselves while the detonation also blows up the planks. We then gotta fight some dreadnoughts with this ability, which we kinda don't need, but it's cool. It's sad, but I suppose it's been a while since we had a required death, or deaths. And although these 2 weren't necessary for us to progress, the next 2 rooms introduce the gimmick of these large metal plates, which will only budge if we hit them with the force of an explosion. Needless to say, the people around us are, subject to bodily harm. So we kinda gotta convince them to move out of the way before proceeding with our demolition project. Yep, don't mind me, coming through. I just need to get to the checkpoint, I'm sure you guys understand. Returning back to the main room, we can now access the top area, tanking the blast from the bomb and disabling it before shrinking down once to charge through a metal stopper, and then shrinking down again to use our invis. There are 2 green lasers in this section, and if we get detected by them, we get thrown into a very annoying fight against many drones and sentinels, so we will avoid that by sneaking to the top, and fortunately we can reach the lever with our web shot. So many soldiers, but none of which we have to interact with to reach our last checkpoint. From here, all we have to do is flip this lever, which changes the orientation of the gates. We don't have to do anything difficult, we just gotta run past everyone and enter into our final room. Here we get stopped by a sentinel and a metal plate. The sentinel goes down pretty easy, but the blockade clearly is not within safe blasting distance from all the people around us. We also kinda need to grab our mass so that we can actually survive the blast, but then comes the difficult part. Convincing these guys to move, and well, ideally we will just scare them away, but that doesn't really work out. No matter what I do, I can't seem to have all of them move over to the ladder. Sometimes they just taunt me, running back and forth right in front of the ladder. They will always start with 2 people above and 3 people below, so you would think that I just have to move these 3 up, but for some reason, the people who were already safe chose to run back down to us. The lack of self-preservation in these guys is insane. Like, I'm right in front of you, please move and stop just cowering in place. They are also so inconsistently frail. Like, sometimes I flip them up and they are perfectly fine, and other times I poke them the wrong way and they just crumple. This guy in particular, we're gonna call him Jerry. Jerry refuses to live, and even when we convince everybody else to shuffle up, Jerry stays, still cowering in his corner, resistant to our taunts and nudges. And I can't tell if this is bravery or foolishness, but whatever it is, it prevents me from progressing without killing him. The room is not wide enough for me to try to blast just the plates from a corner, and I can't blast all the way on the left, as that still hits him somehow, and I can't blast all the way from the right, as the same thing just happens again. In fact, it seems he won't be able to survive the blast unless he was on the ladder, which he seems to absolutely refuse to once everybody else has gone up. Something else I've noticed is that they can't really phase through each other while climbing ladders, and yeah, I was about to knock this one out, and say that no matter what, either due to their AI or something, one person was gonna have to die, until I started experimenting with how long I could carry them, and as it turns out, quite some distance without our creature consuming them. As long as we moved them really slowly, and avoided contacting the humans with the creature's maw, we were fine to proceed. So after a literal hour of struggling, it turns out that sometimes you just gotta slap people around. Finally, inner peace.
And yes, don't worry, all 5 are alive, and probably unscarred.
Oh, and gotta blast through another layer of plates to get out. While we're here, might as well grab an optional upgrade, increasing our max energy bar. With that, we return to the frontier and prepare to enter the last sequence before the end. 19 lives taken up until now.
We recharge our energy, then explode through a plate to access the last section, which is just named Bunker. We first shrink down to invis past the laser and dodge around some soldiers using the elevator. We are forced to be in our smallest form since the laser doesn't deactivate, so for now we can't crash through the glass or any other obstacles we come across. Our bittersweet solution is this soldier, who we're gonna have to parasitize to continue. The gunshots from the soldier can break the glass for us, allowing us to move the elevator with our web shot and get the first of our last 6 checkpoints. Moving on, we have to grab a radioactive orb, probably to the dismay of everyone around us, but don't worry, they live, for now. We save and have to carry the same soldier from before to the left, so we can use him to give us a lift. We professionally install that orb, and the generator opens up the 4 paths on our sides, and from there it's kinda like a choose your own adventure. We choose to stick with invis for now and head to the right, where we first sneak past a large room of enemies, and then reach trouble. To get across this room, something must explode the barricade on the side, and there's just too many enemies for us to just take the bomb and sort it out ourselves. Of the enemy, there's 2 soldiers who are gonna run to our taunts and 2 guards who will run away from our taunts. The only place that looks to be safe from the blast would be these divots, and if I can't save all of them, then surely only one has to die, right? So I begin planning for who the sacrificial lamb should be, and at first glance the choice is so obviously clear. It has to be the flamethrower. I have a personal grudge against him in that he somehow burns us through the floor, but also because he's a soldier variety, meaning his body will stay intact even if we throw him around and kill him. Unlike the guards who will explode under the smallest pressures. And just like previously, if I parasitize him and mess up, the body will also stay intact, which the same can't really be said about the guards. Now the difficulty comes in getting these guys into the divots, and for a while it looked like a plan. Everyone follows random control lines, so all I had to do was wait. But that was bad because of these 2, the unarmed people who would keep screaming, which would distract the guards and stop them from moving. So I had to put my own voice out there, taunting to separate the guard from the soldiers. With my previous experience in moving bodies, we know that the guards are pretty frail, so moving them first would let me know if it was an instant reset. To trap them, at first I decided to put them in whatever divot, but then I thought about actually going to the door, which means I kinda need to be able to retrieve the bomb without the others getting in the way. Through various trials, it seems like these divots are also within the range of the scan, and will drop the bombs onto the people. So for convenience, I chose to drop whoever I could into the pit on the left, since it would be easier to avoid gunfire while I juggle everyone else. Once the guard was down, I would wait for the soldiers to move to separate them, and kill the flamethrower to put aside for the actual bomb mission. With everyone in the divot, all that was left was the guard at the bottom. And let me tell you, for some reason she refuses to climb a ladder, so there is no work around it. Well, it's not like I haven't encouraged someone to elevate before, but I just couldn't get it right. She just seemed to crumple every other time I lifted her. Perhaps I was doing it with too much force or just random RNG, but on the attempts where I do succeed, trying to put her into the divot would also result in her dying. So then the target changed. It was going to be her that carries the bomb till the end. Since I could only parasitize her once, it was going to be a fragile and delicate operation. Dragging her along the floor until she was close enough to the ladder and out of range of either bomb. Yeah. So the new route was taunting both soldiers and throwing them down, and then doing the same to the guard, before finally attempting to throw her onto the ledge and dragging her across. Just had to break the door, and boom, it's freedom. But, could I possibly do it with 0 deaths? I mean, if I just managed to do the process delicately enough, I could also drop her into the pit and blow up the door myself. Well, I guess it would just have to involve the extra step of running back to our deposit en masse and running back through the crowded room, pulling the lever for the bomb and blowing up the bomb on the door. But no, just when I thought I was out of purgatory, the unsuspected culprit, the unarmed humans, find a way to drown. I thought this was a goof, so I reload and redo, and lo and behold, they already ran to the bottom and were prepared to waterboard themselves. Well, this is a bust. Looks like the only solution returns to the hole. Where does this one go? That's right, the square hole. Where does this one go? That's right, the square hole. And this one? That's right, the square hole. Now how about this one? It's okay, take your time. That's right, the square hole. And with our geometry solved at last, no one else has to die in a terrible fashion, and we retrieve our mass, tank the bullets, flick the lever to pick up the bomb ourselves, and claim that second checkpoint. 0 lives lost to this room. To return back to the main room, we actually have to pass a battle room, filled with sentinels, drones, and soldiers. I'm actually going to shrink down before tackling this portion. If we don't, we're going to have to fight multiple sentinels and drones while the turrets shoot us. But if we disable the mechanism with the lever, we just gotta kill some drones. Needless to say, this is the easier and my preferred option. Moving on to the top right, we shrink down first because of some lasers we don't want to get detected by, slipping into the room in the center. We're going to have to activate 2 levers at once to leave, and the second lever is blocked by a metal stopper. This means that we gotta remove it first, and since I'm against eating everyone here for health, we kinda gotta bring our largest form up here. Funny enough, that means we're gonna have to trigger the green laser, and fighting 3 sentinels that spawned. They put up a good fight, but are no match for us. After retrieving our mass and returning to the small room, we remove the metal plug. To get down to our tiny size, I let the guards shoot us to reduce our health, after which we string shot the lever and pull the second one, opening the way to our third checkpoint. Continuing on, we are thrown into another battle room, this time with 3 soldiers and 2 dreadnoughts. The soldiers and the dreadnoughts have probes, so we are going to have to eliminate those 2. The difficulty comes with not accidentally harming the soldiers in the process of trying to destroy the dreadnoughts, and we get easily destroyed if we try to take them head on. Instead, we have to first tap the soldier in the tunnel to web shoot the lever, lowering the gate at the top. From there, it's just a matter of running back, repeatedly removing a chunk of the dreadnoughts until both are defeated. This does mean having to add 2 more to our death count though, but from here we gain the 4th checkpoint, and things are looking up. Choosing now to go to the top left, we have to first push a metal stopper, after which we retrieve our mass, just in case. The first room is pretty simple, just distract the soldiers and run up after they move away. After that, we are put into yet another battle room, where we have to kill 4 drones and a dreadnought. I'm not going to bore you with the details of the fight, but we did have to make sure we didn't accidentally harm any of the guards who are also present in this area. We have to add 1 more to the death counter for the dreadnought, and the 1 fight allows us to proceed to the top right. Here we see the 5th checkpoint and... well, this is gonna be annoying. The 4 people in here don't have to be killed for us to progress, since we did consume our blob before this, and the checkpoint was right here. The tricky part will be making sure none of them fall into the water. To do this, we unfortunately have to do all that again, and when we make it to the top, we have to quickly stun the 2 people closest to the water. We grab the checkpoint and do the speedrunner thing of loading the checkpoint in the pause menu to cancel the animation. This allows us just enough time to break the stopper with our recovered health and leave the area, with only the death from that dreadnought to count. The final area is the bottom right, where we're gonna have to first tank a bomb and enter into a pipe. Following that, we ignore 2 guards and slip into a room and run past the soldier before he also gets any funny ideas about the water. We rise and have to fight a sentinel. The soldiers in this room might fall into the water and end themselves, but I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter in a moment. Defeating the sentinel, the path opens above, allowing us to get the final checkpoint. However, going back to the main room requires energy for us to tank the bomb, and the only way for us to get energy, well, is to flood the previous room, killing all 4 soldiers, just so we can turn into worms and charge up some energy. This guy here will have to live to tell the tale. And so, in our last room of this challenge, we unfortunately will have to add 4 to the counter. With the sufficient resources to tank the bomb, we can move back to the frontier, where we just gotta pull some levers and we end up back at the BSL-4 research ward. Well, from here you already know how the game ends. We just gotta be extra careful since we are very large, but I think it would be a better feeling ending if I did a summary of every required death. In total, we needed 27 deaths to progress through the stages of the facility. Out of those, 6 were needed to increase our health to break an obstacle in our way. 10 of those had probes attached and needed to be defeated to open a gate, 8 of which were originally dreadnoughts and 2 of which were originally soldiers. 7 of those were due to mandatory parasitism, either for squeezing into a new area or to complete a puzzle, and of course the 4 soldiers who just died to the water. 13 sentinels, 14 if you count the one in a flashback, and 12 drones were broken. But since I said I don't feel remorse for them, I guess we know who won't survive the robot uprising. I guess final side note, here's the first guy we were supposed to kill, still sitting here on the toilet after all this time. No matter how far we went or how much we experienced, I guess there's always still some things we can look to come back to, huh? Well, I just thought this was pretty neat. So, was this all a metaphor that violence is for those who are uncreative? Man, I don't know.